You have no idea how brainwashed you are. And I had no idea how brainwashed I had become until about 5 years ago. My name is Dr. Steve Hewlett, and I've been a doctor of pharmacy for over 35 years. I'm helping people get off diabetic medications, lose weight, and regain the energy through nutrition. I'm also a speaker and an author of the book, Your Plate is Your Fate. So, in today's episode, I want to make sure that you understand exactly how and why our nutrition and therefore our health has continued to get worse and worse year after year. And what's worse is there are huge industries for making billions of dollars off keeping us sick. So, what are some examples of these things that we're being told that have been proven false over and over again? But the money makers keep telling us this, and they work very hard to keep this information silent. So, here's just a few of the things we've been told that have been proven false. These are some: eating red meat causes gout, eating meat causes diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is a disease caused by having too high blood glucose. Eating meat causes heart attacks. Eating fat makes you fat. Eating cholesterol makes your blood cholesterol go up. High LDLs contribute to heart attacks. All of these are things that we all think are true, and they are absolutely false. So I felt compelled to give you a podcast to let you understand exactly what is going on. And remember, this is not your physician's fault on any of this. Again, I'm a doctor of pharmacy, have been for 35 years, and I just recently found out how we've been duped. And your physician, unless he goes into the nutrition information and the metabolic literature, he's not going to know any of this either, because we all are brainwashed by the drug companies and we don't even realize it. So, where did this all start? It all started back in the 1950s. And this is when, in 1955, Eisenhower had a heart attack. And at the time, everybody was wondering what causes heart attacks, because we really didn't see heart attacks very often. So what ended up happening is there was one man named Ancel Keys, and he said it was because of eating fat that made us have heart attacks. Then there was another man named John Yudkin. He said, no, it was sugar that was causing all this. And so there was this big debate, and this was back again in the 1950s and 60s. And that's when Ancel Keys decided he was going to prove that eating fat made you fat. And I won't go into this because I've already done a podcast on this in episode 25. It's called The History of Processed Food. But just to give it real succinctly, Ancel Keys had been out on sabbatical, looked at a bunch of people that were obese and saw that they were eating fat. So he came up with a theory: I bet fat makes you fat. So what you normally do is you take this theory, you make that a hypothesis, and then you set out to do studies to prove that your hypothesis is either right or wrong. That never, ever happened with this. This was strictly a theory of Ancel Keys because of this theory that he went out. In fact, he went around to all over the country and looked at 21 different countries to prove that people who eat fat are the ones who are getting obese. But when he did this, he found out 14 of his 21 countries that he picked didn't match his requirement. So he just threw them out. So what originally started off to be a 21 country study ended up only being a little 7 country study. And it wasn't even a study. It's called epidemiological. It means there's no real study. They just happened to notice these things. However, he was so persuasive that in the mid 1960s, he persuaded the American Heart Association to believe what he said, just his hypothesis, his theories, no studies whatsoever. He had the American Heart Association believing that eating fat made you fat. And because of this, in 1977, Senator George McGovern wrote our dietary goals for the United States based off this same theory with no studies saying that eating fat is what made you fat. And this totally redid everything. It totally redid. They made our food pyramid, which was all marketing ploy, had no scientific backing. And this was done in 1992. And if you look back at that food pyramid, it's showing everybody that you're supposed to be eating mainly carbohydrates. That's what they wanted. And the people who backed this were the industries of grain. So there was the grain industry, the cereal industry, the vegetable oil industry, and the sugar industry. All of those were backing this food pyramid from back then. Obviously, all of those were, because all of this horrible stuff is what's in our man-made food. And the whole purpose of the food pyramid was to get you eating man-made, laboratory-made food, everything in a box, bottle, bag, and can that's in the middle aisles of the grocery store. That was all. It was a marketing ploy to get you to eat their stuff and quit eating the healthy animal meat and God-made food with real meat, real fruits, and real vegetables. So when you break down that pyramid that they had, that you should be eating 55 to 60% of your calories every day should be coming from carbohydrates. And remember, carbohydrates means glucose. That's all carbohydrates are. It's glucose, so long strands of glucose. So if you see something that says there's 50 grams of carbohydrates in it, that means there's 50 grams of glucose also. So they wanted 55 to 6% being carbohydrates. And on top of all that glucose, they wanted added sugars. And they said you should have added sugars 10 to 15% of your daily calories. Sugar is a combination of glucose and fructose, to where just plain carbohydrates are just glucose. But as you'll see, it's the glucose that they're taking everybody's eye off the ball, and it's glucose who's causing all these problems. It really breaks down to where you look at the food pyramid. It says that 60 to 68% of your calories should come from glucose, and 5 to 8% should come from fructose. And then the rest you can divide up with the fat and cholesterol and the protein that you eat. And that it has as little as 15% protein. This food pyramid has nothing to do with science. The only thing it has to do with health is to make us way more sick and way more diseased. We are being duped by industries that are making lots of money off of us. So now, just real quick before I go on, if you're struggling with obesity and you want a realistic, sustainable way to turn your health around without exercise, the next step is so easy. All you have to do is click in the link below the description and schedule a free 15-minute wellness solutions chat with me. And we'll see if anything that we have can help you get healthy, get off medications. And we have had helped many people get off their diabetic medications, blood pressure medications, cholesterol medications, and on it goes. Just click on the link below if you want to get on a free 15-minute chat with us. So now the main thing with nutrition is nobody ever stopped to think, what are our bodies actually made of? Because that's what nutrition means. Whatever our bodies are made of, that's what we need to eat, because our bodies are constantly regenerating all the time. There's all kinds of chemical processes. We're tearing down cells. We're making new cells. We are going all the time. So we need the types of things that our body's built of. Our bodies are made out of protein. It's made out of fat, made out of cholesterol, vitamins, and minerals. That's what it's made out of. We are not made out of glucose. We are not made out of carbohydrates. Plants are made out of carbohydrates. Animals are not. We have a little bit, but we're not made out of them. And we can make all the glucose we need out of protein and out of fat. So that's the first thing. The major thing that this food pyramid was telling everybody is that we really need to eat this one macronutrient that our bodies aren't even made out of. It was totally for money. It was all about money. What things are we eating? Okay. Carbohydrates, like I said, is glucose. There are God-made carbohydrates and there are man-made, laboratory-made carbohydrates. God-made carbohydrates are fruits and vegetables. And that's perfectly fine. You can have your fruits and vegetables, and I've done topics on these. You just have to be careful because there are some phytotoxins. They all contain glucose, just some more than others. The ones below the ground have more glucose than the ones that grow above the ground. So if you have glucose issues like type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, high blood pressure, anything like that, then you need to really keep your glucose down. But the main thing you need to keep down is keep all man-made laboratory food that you get in the grocery stores, lines all our grocery store shelves with box, bottle, bag, and can, all these great big ingredient lists of all the chemicals. That is what is killing us, because all man-made food is made out of glucose, fructose, seed oils, and chemicals. And all four of these are toxic to our bodies. And that's why we're seeing all this horrible disease that we see now. So let's go ahead and break down the things we said. First thing we said that we're being told is that eating red meat causes gout. Wrong. What causes gout? One of the big things that causes gout is fructose. When you eat fructose, fructose goes straight to the liver, and the liver turns that into uric acid, which causes gout, and also turns almost all of it gets turned immediately into triglycerides and stored as fat. And remember, uric acid causes gout. Fructose is the sugar that's in fruits, and it's also in high fructose corn syrup, and it's in sugar. Remember, sugar is a combination of glucose and fructose. So you're getting fructose anytime you have sugar. High fructose corn syrup is the exact same thing, only you actually get even more fructose. It's instead of being 50-50 like sugar, it's 45 to 55. So there's 55% fructose and only 45 glucose. And again, fructose is extremely toxic. Fructose is what gets turned into uric acid and causes gout. But other than that, high fructose corn syrup and sugar is the exact same thing. So that was the first thing that we've been lied to. It is fructose. It is sugar that is causing gout. It is not red meat. Now, the next two, eating meat causes diabetes, and type 2 diabetes is caused by having too high blood glucose. That is wrong. What really does cause diabetes? Okay, and I've gone through this before. In order to realize what diabetes is, you need to know what the 3 pillars of disease is. And those 3 pillars are having high insulin levels, having high inflammation throughout your body, and having high blood glucose levels. When you have those 3 things, you are starting to damage every single organ in your body. That's why I call it type 2 diabetes is really an umbrella disease. That's a disease that starts affecting every single organ in your body because you're tearing up the blood vessels. So how does this work? What is diabetes? And I'm not going to go deep into this because I'm just going to hit all of these in short amounts because I've done podcasts on all of these in the past. But what happens with diabetes? First, you eat glucose, because the question isn't how to get your blood glucose down. It's why is it going up in the first place? And the only reasons why your blood glucose goes up is if you're under stress and it takes it from your very limited glucose stores, or if you eat it. The main reason your blood glucose goes up is because you eat it. So you eat glucose. This makes your blood glucose go up. This makes your blood insulin go up. The insulin tells your liver, turn all this glucose that you just ate, turn that into fat in the form of triglycerides. And then insulin tells your fat cells, store all these triglycerides in your fat cell. Once each cell becomes very, very full of all these triglycerides, once it can't hold any more fat, that cell is now called insulin resistant. So that's what insulin resistance is, full fat cells. It actually takes decades to get full-blown diabetes because as you're slowly gaining more glucose, you're eating more and more glucose throughout the day, every single day, you keep filling up all your fat cells all around the body. As each fat cell gets stuffed, that becomes insulin resistant. The more fat cells around your body that you keep stuffing full of fat, the more insulin resistance you have. So you find it takes more and more insulin to be able to keep your blood glucose down. And then all of a sudden you fill up all your fat cells and now your blood glucose goes up because you don't have anywhere else to put all these triglycerides. So that's what diabetes is. Diabetes, yes, it starts with eating glucose, but the underlying root cause is having your insulin levels too high for too long, causing insulin resistance. So it has nothing to do with eating red meat and all this other stuff that they're trying to get you. Again, we're being brainwashed. They want you to think that, so you quit eating animal products and you eat all their toxic sludge. So the next one that we get talked about that we've been duped on is eating meat. Eating meat causes heart attacks, and high LDLs contribute to heart attacks. Both of these have been proven wrong over and over again. What causes heart attacks is blood vessel damage. What causes blood vessel damage? It goes back to the same thing. You eat too much glucose. All this glucose causes your blood insulin rise. Insulin has your liver turn all that glucose into triglycerides. Now you have a ton of triglycerides. When you have a ton of triglycerides, your body is trying to take care of it. And when it does, it fills up its little VLDL and LDL fat mobiles. It fills it up with a lot more triglycerides and cholesterol. And again, I've done talks on this, other podcasts on this, if you don't understand what I'm saying. But I'm saying the same thing over and over again. Too much glucose leads to too much insulin, leads to turning all your glucose into fat and leaving the fat storage and all the things that happen with that. The other thing that happens, there's 2 different LDLs. There's good, large point LDLs, and there's bad, small, dense LDLs. The small, dense LDLs come about because of eating too much glucose, having too many triglycerides. And so now this little LDL becomes very small. And I talked about this in the last podcast. So it can't even attach to the liver anymore. So it stays out in the bloodstream for a lot longer, like 48 hours, longer than a normal LDL. While that's out there, this small dense LDL, it becomes inflamed because you're usually under inflammation when you're eating the kind of man-made laboratory food that causes all these high triglycerides. They become glycated, which means glucose attaches to them and destroys them, makes them where they're no good. That's called glycation. And that happens because we have high glucose. And then they're also being oxidized because we've just made we're using glucose for our energy source, which makes free radicals, and inflammation makes free radicals. And these attach to that also. So now you have this small, dense LDL that just got pushed into the blood vessel, and the body sees this in the blood vessel, sees it's damaged, and so it tries to get rid of it. And when it does, it causes the blood vessel damage, and that's what causes the heart attacks. And again, I know I went through that. You may not have the slightest idea what I was saying, but again, I've done podcasts in the past that explains exactly what I'm saying. So it's not eating red meat that causes heart attacks, and it's not high LDLs that contribute to heart attacks. Our bodies make all the cholesterol that it needs. It is not high cholesterol that causes this. Now, the next thing, eating fat makes you fat. That's the other thing that they're trying to tell you. There's only one thing that has a direct link to fat, and that's insulin. When you have your insulin levels high, it forces you to store fat. When you have your insulin levels low, it forces you to burn your fat out of your fat cells like we were always supposed to do. Because again, the same thing, we eat too much glucose, that goes into a high blood glucose, that goes into high blood insulin, that gets turns all the glucose into triglycerides, and then it gets stored in your fat cells. So that's how you become obese. All of this comes from eating too much glucose. Now, the last one, eating cholesterol makes your blood cholesterol go up. This is crazy. The cholesterol, and this has been proven over and over again also, the cholesterol that's in your blood is totally different from the cholesterol that you eat. The cholesterol that, in fact, when you eat cholesterol, that's called esterified cholesterol. Your body, cholesterol is so vital to our existence. 80% of all the cholesterol in our body is made by the liver. The brain uses 20% of all the cholesterol, and every single cell in your body that has a nucleus, which means every single cell except red blood cell, cholesterol is vital to their existence. So vital that they have two ways of getting it. They all make it by themselves. They make the cholesterol they need, but they also have ability to put more LDL receptors on the outside. So as LDLs come through, it can pull the cholesterol out of the LDL and put it inside. That's how vital cholesterol is. It is not this evil demon that the drug companies are trying to tell you. It is not high LDLs that cause heart attacks. It's high triglycerides and low HDLs. And again, high triglycerides come from eating too much glucose. Low HDLs come from not eating enough fat and cholesterol, because your HDLs, your good cholesterol, is actually made in the intestine. And so that's the only thing they found that increases your HDL, your good cholesterol, is by actually eating cholesterol in your food, which is perfectly healthy, perfectly normal, and should be done all the time. Why is cholesterol and fat? Why are these so important? Why do I care if they're telling you to have low fat, no fat? Anytime you see low fat or no fat, look at the carbohydrates. The carbohydrates go up as they take the healthy fat and cholesterol out of it. And fat is used all over our body. Fat is used for our energy storage. Like we said, we store fat in our subcutaneous cells. That's what we're supposed to use for our everyday energy source. It also helps with insulating our bodies. It helps with every single cell membrane and nerve tissue. They all are made out of fat and cholesterol. The cells are made out of fat and cholesterol, the membranes of them. So you have to have it. And we're making new cells all the time, every day. You're making new cells right now as we speak. You're constantly making new ones. Fat's also extremely important when we're talking about absorption of your fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. It also helps cushion our soft organs. It also regulates our hunger and our satiety, saying whether we're hungry or whether we're not. It maintains our energy balance, because what we should be able to do is called metabolic flexibility, where you always use fat for your energy source. But if you're in a fight or flight situation, you need to be able to switch over and use glucose for energy source really quickly. But when the stress is over, you should be able to go back to eating the fat out of your fat cells again. And that's how we maintain a good energy balance. Fat also helps us generate heat. It makes more heat for us. So that's how we stay warm even when it's cold outside. It also, Fat helps maintain your insulin sensitivity because, again, insulin resistance comes from full fat cells. If you use your fat for your energy source, your fat cells aren't going to get full because you're going to be using that for your energy source. And so that's going to make your cells more insulin sensitive. That's why that works. And then obviously, fat also has your essential fatty acids, which means your body doesn't make it. You have to get it from the food that you eat. And those two essential fatty acids are omega 6 and omega 3. So fat is extremely important to our life. Cholesterol. Cholesterol is extremely vital. Like I said, it's so vital that all our cells in our body that have a nucleus have two different ways of getting cholesterol because they have to have it to grow, to be able to talk to each other, to do all the functions that cell needs. Now, cholesterol is the basic building block of all your steroid hormones. So testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all three of those are made by cholesterol. So if you're not eating cholesterol, you're going to have decreased amounts of these as well, or eating fat and cholesterol because you need the fat to be able to make cholesterol. There's cholesterol, like I said, in every single cell membrane, and it's also used in nerve tissue building. Cholesterol is also the basic building block in vitamin D, which is extremely important. And we're finding more and more things that we use vitamin D for. And we've also found that most people are low in vitamin D because they've scared our body not to go out in the sun, which is absolutely ridiculous. Sun is vital to you. Do not burn, but don't slather a bunch of chemicals and sunscreens on your body either, because we need that vitamin D. Cholesterol is also used in bile acids, which that's what gets stored in our gallbladder. And that's what the enzymes that break down our food when we eat our food. So when you don't have enough cholesterol in your nutrition and fat, then you decrease the amount of bile acids that you have. And this is where you start getting biliary sludging. A lot of people have to have their gallbladder taken out, and you can't digest the food like you need to. So that needs cholesterol as well. And then they've also found that LDLs and cholesterol actually also help with immunity too, because they can actually fight bacteria and fight viruses. Why are they telling us that high LDLs cause heart attacks? Because just last year alone, in 2025, the statin industry made $16.3 billion telling everybody that high LDLs is what causes heart attacks. And that is not true. Statins are lethal. Anyway, everything that we've been told about health and about what we should and should not eat really all come down to the bottom line of money. These industries are making lots of money, and there's lots of money to be made off sick people. So remember, the three pillars of a disease are having high inflammation levels, and inflammation comes from eating seed oils, fructose, and too much glucose. High insulin levels, which comes from eating too much glucose, and high glucose levels, which comes from eating too much glucose. Because if you look around, remember, glucose is in every single man-made product. Every single box, bottle, bag, can, they have glucose, which ultra-processed grains, that's glucose. Just think that grain-fed cattle to fatten them up before they go to slaughter, because grains are glucose and grain causes fat. Bears eat a bunch of berries and fructose, because fructose gets turned straight into fat, and that's how they hibernate. So fructose and glucose both get turned directly into fat. So you need to decrease those out of there. So again, inflammation comes from seed oils, fructose, and too much glucose. Insulin, too much glucose, and high glucose caused by too much glucose. So if you keep the glucose out of your mouth, you'll be able to reverse your type 2 diabetes. You'll be able to get off your diabetic medications, get off your blood pressure medications probably. And also, as a bonus, you also are going to lose fat. So if you want to reverse type 2 diabetes and get off these medications, keep the glucose out of your mouth, and you will do yourself a world of good. So until next time, stay nourished and stay well.